Got it. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening for our information call about Impressions of Oaxaca, which is a 10-day embroidery workshop tour that has been co-created between myself, Kim Hunter. I'm the founder of Traveling Traders Bazaar and a textile lover and enthusiast I've worked with artisans in Thailand to make face masks during the pandemic and an accessory collection, and am an avid learner of the textile arts, and was thrilled when Miriam and Carolyn indicated that they were interested in coming together around something we all enjoyed. And so to introduce the rest of our team, we've got Miriam Campos with us. Miriam is a third generation embroidery artisan from San Antonio, Castillo, Velasco, and her entire family of aunt and mother and grandmother are all accomplished designers. They're well known in their community, not only for their service to it, but also for their incredible technique and work, which brings them business from all over the world. And they share that with an artisan collective that actually contributes.
Did you all freeze up, or did I freeze up?
You've just frozen it, or have I frozen? Can everybody still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
I'm
hear
good.
you really well.
Yeah, and I mean, Miriam herself is an accomplished artisan. Her pieces have been shown at the Santa Fe International Folk Art Market, at the Rufino Tamayo Museum in Oaxaca, at the New York Botanical Gardens. I could go on. So we are so lucky and blessed to have Miriam and her wisdom and her incredible personality joining us. I love traveling with her and have loved cultivating a friendship over the last few years. And also we have joining us Professor Carolyn Kallenborn, who has over 25 years of experience, not only teaching in a university, but creating and making art. I met these two as they were working on a museum exhibition called Intercambio, where they were both working on a shared piece. Carolyn's been collaborating and bringing her students to Oaxaca since 2004. She has just a deep bench of relationships and context for craft and textiles in Oaxaca that is really unique, and also brings a professor's insight and instruction to the process that we're going to go on over the 10 days, which is one of the things I'm really excited about during this trip. Well, great. Well, thank you all for joining us tonight, as well as anybody who tunes in to the recording. If you have any questions during the kind of presentation, if you want to put them in the chat, we can weave in the answers, and we'll also have a question section at the end of sort of the information. So I'm going to hand it over to Miriam to share a bit about Oaxaca and why it is the place to create together.
Thank you, Kim. I love the stories behind you and the love of textiles that we share and we have in common. Oaxaca had that kind of magic connection too. So Oaxaca is in the south part of Mexico, as you can see. If you've never been here, we really love to see you soon here enjoying us to have this amazing trip that we are planning. And we are so excited to know so much about your work and the things that you're doing. Well, Oaxaca is really rich region. It's not just one kind of people. We are a mixture of different kind of cultures, indigenous cultures. In fact, we have 16 different ethnic groups in Oaxaca, and we will have the chance to know some of them and share with them some techniques and see where they are living and where are developing their art textile work. So we hope we have you here. This is some pictures about Oaxaca City, which will be the central point that we will be stay during the trip. Oaxaca City is a mix of also a colonial city and with our really deep indigenous roots. And we want to share with you some of these things here in Oaxaca. And as you can see, Oaxaca have a layers of history. We will share with you some barrios, traditional barrios, and traditional community too, which have together a colonial history, a pre-Spanish history, and also a contemporary history. So part of our trip will be some these parts, and well, I hope you can see in person here. Also, in the cuisine in Oaxaca is one of the biggest treasures, and our love, the all of three, Kim, Carolyn, and I, we love the food and the flavors and the colorful of music, and that's reflected also in the textiles. So we will have the chance to share with you some delicious food, really simple ones, some others more contemporary too, but everybody is delicious. So hope you can enjoy this part of the trip too.
Thank you, Miriam. You're making me hungry just talking. Carolyn, I think you're going to chat.
Am I up on it? Okay. So, we wanted to just, then there's also the tour that we're going to be doing too, which I think we came up with this because there's so many interesting embroidery traditions in Oaxaca, and each one kind of has its own very distinct style. And as Miriam was talking about, there's all these different ethnic groups, and each one kind of has their own embroidery. So very often when you see these, if someone's wearing it as sort of their daily dress, you can tell where they're from, what part of the, which sometimes even down to which village that they're from, simply by what they're wearing. So you see all this amazing stuff. Although there's some nice smocking going on in the shirt that I've got here, so y'all might enjoy that. So we thought it'd be good to, I think it's a great place for sort of inspiration to really think about using, like, just getting into this rich culture. As Miriam was talking about, it goes back very long in history, and there's all kinds of influences that have come in, and it shifts and changes, but it's managed to sort of each group has managed to hold on to their own identity over actually quite a few different conquests. They've layered over conquests from not just in Spanish, but it's happening before that too. And they've all managed to sort of hold on to that identity. And I think there's so this layering of history is really interesting. So this immersion and inspiration in the culture in and of itself, and understanding it through the embroidery, is really like, it's kind of mind-blowing. And then there's just the idea of learning hands-on interaction is a really different way than, there's a lot of tours here that do really great jobs of like going around and visiting artisans and visiting their studios. But I think, I've experienced this, and Miriam has experienced this, that when we have workshops together with people and we're sitting down learning, it's a whole different level of sort of interaction and meaningful connections. These two are actually, the guy on the left here, this was in October, he's from India, does not speak any Spanish at all or English. And the woman who's teaching him doesn't speak any English and doesn't speak any Gujarati. And you can tell how they're interacting. They're having no problem interacting and communicating at all. And it's just this, every time I see that, it's so fascinating, and it's so meaningful to see that happen. And then people stay friends and they don't even speak the same language. It totally blows me away. And the other thing that happens in these things, like when I'm learning from you and we're in a workshop together, and especially if it's people that are coming in with some kind of, arts background or making background, whether it's pottery or the business, or it's all the different things, or theater, all these things that we do, we're all coming in with different backgrounds. And when we sit down and learn it, the learning is going both directions. It's not just one's the teacher and one's the learner. And it's, to me, that interaction that happens, that the way that crosses borders is really an important thing, especially in a time now where we're so kind of split. That having that way to cross and connect is, I think it goes beyond just making a nice piece of artwork. I think we just need to do that more. And the other thing that I think Oaxaca really makes, things are slower here. Everything takes more time. And there's something really wonderful about that you have to slow down and you have to take time and reflect. And that was the other thing Miriam and we all talked about a lot that this, coming in and doing a tour and you zoom from one thing to another, and it can be really interesting. You see a lot of things, but we wanted to make it so we build in time to like stop and reflect and do some, journaling, writing, stitching, whatever, before we go on to the next thing. And I think that time to relax, that's what like living here is like, that it gives me. That it's very different from the university, which last week's been pretty busy, but generally, it's a lot more, like this in the States, and here things just take longer and you get used to it and actually feels really good. So we wanted to give you guys, just a little feel of that for the 10 days. So, okay, yeah. Give me your up. Uh-oh, your mic's not on.
Thanks, Carolyn. Yeah, we're gonna kind of take turns walking through the various days, just so people get a good understanding of like every day of this trip, which we have thoughtfully thought out. The trip will begin on June 9th, which is when we can actually all check into Villa Verde, which I'll share more about later in when we talk about accommodations, but that's where we'll all be staying. Those that are local will be coming and visiting during that time. But we are going to kick off our time together, get checked in, get settled, and then meet on the rooftop, our own private rooftop, to kick off a meet and greet, as well as head to a group dinner in Oaxaca City. So that's how we'll kick off on the 9th. And our official first day is going to actually take us out of Oaxaca. So we really wanted to not just be in Oaxaca City and spend time with artisans and do these day trips that we'll be talking about, but really start it with introducing you to the real breadth of Oaxaca. We'll leave early in the morning. We're actually going to head to Mitla, which is where their famous stone Grecas, as well as just beyond that are prehistoric caves where they found remnants of corn and prehistoric cave paintings that we'll get to take in before we head up into the Sierra Norte mountains, where we'll be staying in a small town called El Carrizal, which is a beautiful bread baking village nestled in the mountains, where we'll begin to kick off our creative exercises from Carolyn.
Mm-hmm. So I think one of the things we were thinking about is that the history, there's a very long history, and it didn't just start with the people that are here right now. There's been layers of people that have come, and other groups have come in and gone, but really the land has been here the longest. So we wanted to start this out with the land and getting connected to the land. So we'll go out and we'll do, when we're out in the mountains, we'll do some kind of exercises of just relaxation and really getting some time to focus in on the textures and the colors. And so we'll encourage everybody to bring along sketchbooks and embroidery thread and fabric, but that you can carry so that we can you spend some time like just picking up on what's there and how you might be able to interpret that and use that as your own. Because I think really rooting it first in the land and then kind of layering up through the people is what we're hoping happens, because we really want to get a depth of this experience. There's so many aspects to what's going on in Oaxaca that we want to try to get through a number of them. And Kim, you want to talk about the accommodations a little bit?
Yeah, so we've actually been working with the El Carrizal community for a couple of mushroom seasons now as part of a different tour that we do, and we love the community there. And they actually have adobe cabins with wood-fired fireplaces, and we'll be eating at Delila's, one of the local homes that hosts guests that visit the village. All home cooked, organic, made straight from the land food. So it's definitely an incredible introduction to what it's like to live on the land in the mountains of Oaxaca as we embark on this journey.
So the next day, so partly is we're going up into the mountains because one of the places we want to go to takes about 3.5 hours to get there if it's not raining. And so we're going to go part way and stay there overnight. And then we're going to go to this amazing new, it's called the a silk, oh shoot, it's a silk that it's a silk sanctuary, Santuario de Gusano de Seda. So it's the sanctuary of the silkworm. And this is a brand new building. It's just only been open not less than a year, and it's in a very traditional town where I used to go there, and most of the houses are just adobe with dirt floors, but they have this incredible new space where all people from all over the town come in there and work. This is back in October. This is again the guy that doesn't speak any English or Spanish, and they had a wonderful workshop without. So, but it has this incredible view. It's a beautiful space. They start there with the actual worms. They go from the worm eggs, they cultivate the worms, they have to grow the mulberry trees, feed the worms, help grow the silk cocoons, which you can see up in the left. And then after they're done, they process them, and you can see them hand spinning the silk threads, which they then put on the looms and weave. So they also do natural dyeing. Whoops, went one too many. There we go. They also do natural dyeing there. And so the first real I guess it's the second workshop day, we'll be working with Moises Martinez, who's one of the leaders in the community there and the silk cultivation. And we'll be dyeing with cochineal and pericon and indigo, which are 3 natural dyes. And we'll get kind of a whole tour of the place. And then we'll also be dyeing things, and everybody will get some yarn that they can use, like 5 or 10 grams of yarn, of hand spun silk yarn that you can dye yourself, that then you can use in your embroideries during the trip. I think I just love going up there, and I like any excuse to go. I'd love to go up there. It's really beautiful. And then the next day we'll come back to Oaxaca, and hopefully in my studio is the plan. And we'll have a guest instructor, Virginia Alvarez Juarez, who's from San Bartolome, Ayutla. And this is the type of weaving, embroidery that they do. They wear them in huipiles, which are like shirts. And it's it's a little bit heavier cotton, and the embroidery on this is extraordinary. And Sarah, did you see the Intercambio show at, so the one that Roberto made, he worked with Virginia on this, and it's just absolutely an extraordinary piece. So she's going to teach us how she does it, from how she transfers the design onto the fabric, and then how she can, how you do the stitching. So she stitches the outline and then goes in and does this really tight satin stitch. And I think one of the things we can do is, like, when we're doing our drawings and things in nature, if you come up with some shapes or forms, that can be sort of your vocabulary that then you can create and stitch on your own shapes when you learn some of these different techniques. That's the idea. That's the professor in me that wants to do that. And then Miriam, I think that you're up on this part. You want to talk about Oaxaca, the city?
Yeah, the idea is, well, after come back to the mountains, to the Oaxaca city, to show you how it's the mixture of these roots and innovation right now in Oaxaca. So we visited some spots, really interesting spots, like some stores that are actually selling directly from the artisan in the village, and we can see in the same place different techniques for embroidery, and in some of them really traditional and in the same style as many years ago, but next to them another ones who are really innovative things, really new and different colors, new materials, and also another expressions like combine carved and other expression of art with textiles too. So it will be an interest day walking around the Oaxaca city and share with you, Carolyn and Kim and I, show you how it's developed the center of Oaxaca, all of these interesting spots.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things we're going to do is meet an artist I met on the street one day, and I've kept in touch with him for like 8 or 9 years now, who you can see in this video. It's pretty extraordinary. He stitches with thread. He puts the color into he has a curved needle, and it's like he's painting, but he's doing it with thread. So he's going to visit with us and bring a bunch of his pieces for us to look, and we have some time to just spend and talk with him while we're there. And as we walk around Oaxaca, we'll see there's all kinds of things in the streets and all kinds of different arts. We'll focus on embroidery so that we get to see a lot of the different styles, but there's so many arts, and we want, hope to have everybody inspired by all of that. So
another of these interesting spots are the Museum Textiles, which I love that place. It's it's an amazing place who are dedicated to preserve and transmit the traditional textiles, but at the same time show really contemporary textiles installation from all over the world. So we will have the chance to visit this amazing place. It's a really beautiful place to share with us workshops, exhibitions, and materials for to learn more about textile art here in Oaxaca. So we will visit this place too. And we also schedule a visit for studios which are developed more contemporary styles of textiles, and we have the chance to talk with the people who are running this new entrepreneur business and share with them their point of view and their motivation and the inspiration for develop this activity.
Thanks, Miriam. I'm very excited about day 4 because I want Carolyn and Miriam to tell me all the things about everything in Oaxaca City. It's like all concentrated. And the next day, on day 6, will actually be another embroidery workshop day, this time heralding from actually the Sierra Nortes, where we will spend our first night up in the mountains. These instructors, Ali and Conches, are making some really incredible geometric and almost like woven embroidery on top of fabric in their embroidery, and it's just super special stuff. And they're also an example of artisans who are not quite well known, but are working with a local designer here to create a line with her and run a trout restaurant that is one of the ways in which they feed their families and their kids. So they'll be coming from the mountains to join us in Oaxaca for the day. And also they've said yes, but we'll see, you can't confirm anything in Mexico sometimes until it's confirmed, but they'll also be bringing us a trout lunch to share with them from their Commodore in the mountains for us to enjoy on that day. So I'm really excited. And we'll also have Adriana, who's been working with them on her collection, and they're going to have a conversation about working together as artisans and designers. Again, kind of going back to what Miriam and Carolyn touched on, that we're going to be incorporating conversations with artisans and Carolyn, Miriam, Ariana in different ways so that we can get a better understanding of those relationships. To you, Carolyn.
Is this me on?
No, Miriam.
Miriam's tianguis, yeah.
Yeah, our goal is not just to have moments of improve our skills about embroidery. We also wanna approach a deep connection with the people and with Oaxaca and the way that we are living here. So that's why we are visit on the day 6 at Tianguis in Sachila, which is one of the most old places who still is a central market here in Oaxaca. It comes from the Zapotec time and it's still alive, and we have the chance to see all the products that are selling there directly from the people from towns around Xochila. So this day we also visit some other two villages, which is Santa Tomás Jalietza and San Martín Tilcajete, and we also had the chance to see how they are keeping alive their traditions and the traditional art folk during all of through these years, and nowadays is really a big activity for the towns. And the idea is to connect these visits and this experience to our projects, embroidery, and try to get the most inspiration that as we can in this day. And for the day 7, we also have a studio day in Carolyn's studio. We have Carolyn.
And we'll have just, so this will be kind of an open time. And I think the idea is that we've had to be doing things that are inspiring us at the same time, like kind of keeping sketchbook, whether that's sketchbook with drawings or photos or embroidery, and learning a few techniques, and then coming back into the studio and just having a day to just focus on making and stitching. We're also going to do things like Miriam and I have a number, I don't even know how many kind of major pieces we've done together that we've worked on together. And we thought that might be interesting to share too, just because we're coming from two really different backgrounds, and how we both kind of managed to keep our own identity, but we're also blending together into making things. And plus they're just some really, I have to say, they're really beautiful pieces. It's because of Miriam, but so that time, and then and we'll have a couple visitors and some discussions, but it's kind of mostly open work day. So it's more relaxed, and then really some time to kind of quiet down and just focus on stitching and thinking about how you might want to start to put together the things that you've been experiencing into your own way of working. So
yeah, we are talking about so much how to share all of experience, and besides we trying to have a relaxation time and a big connection with the culture, we also had planning activities that we can facilitate this interaction and these connections, not just having a part activities. All the tour is thinking, it has been thinking like a whole process, and have big conversation about what is going on these days about textiles and embroidery. So the day 8, I have the honor to host you here at home in San Antonino, Castillo Velasco. I feel really glad to have this chance, and the idea is share with you and with my family. I mainly come from a female family, as you can see, many aunts and cousins, and we are all related to textiles. So I really excited to have the opportunity to interact with you and them, and how many interesting talks we can able to have. Yeah, and at the same time here in the studio, we have the chance to learn the open thread work, which is called in Spanish Deshilado, which is one of our techniques here in our traditional pieces that we embroidery every day. And well, we have the chance to have this workshop too. And also that day we can visit another great master of pottery, Don Jose, and have the chance to taste meal in the market, which I hope you enjoyed it too that night. Yeah, that's the end of it, day 8.
And just to note, the word deshilado in Spanish means, like, literally translates into like unthreading. So they take
Yeah.
an already woven piece of fabric and they pull out all the threads in one direction, and then you go back in and you wrap the ones that are left. So that's kind of what's going on here. It's really pretty spectacular. So yeah. And just meeting Miriam's family is a whole other thing all by itself. I think that's one of the best parts of the trip, to just see the whole family and how they work together. And her aunts are going to come in and they're going to love everybody. And they're really great. So on day 9 is another full studio day. Again, we have some things to, talk about a little bit, but things like, how you sit and stitch and you have these conversations. If you ever, done that with people, like quilting bees or, stitching groups or knitting groups, like there's something that happens when you're just thinking about when your hands are busy and doing something that you really enjoy looking at. And at the same time, you're having conversations with really interesting people. It's probably more that than the topics themselves, and things just happen. So that's what we're imagining kind of on these studio days. But the idea is that this is just about the last day on the 9, that's pretty much a day to really start thinking about how do you want to, what do you want to take with you? Do you want to kind of pull it together into like a kind of a book? Do you want to make a piece? Kim says she wants to like mend some clothes she has. So really it's kind of with like really interesting embroidery. So I think, what you decide to do with these things is up to you. And like for me, I wind up taking things and using paper and drawing and then stitching on top of it, or I'll stitch on some embroidery that I found. But I think it's kind of really what you can do, what you want. Where you go with what you're taking is really up to you. But I think we'll all be inspired by each other, encouraged by each other about what's going on, to have so many things to look at, to be inspired by, and then have this like really concentrated time to just do what's in your brain and your heart at that point. And so I think I'm really excited to see what people do. And then the very last day, I think, is a really important part of all this, because when you have we're going to invite as many of the artists as we can. Some of them live kind of far out and they may not be able to make it in. But the idea is for all of us, after we finish, is to put all our work out. It's kind of like you do a critique in school where you put all your work out, and just to see how different people responded to the same input is so fascinating, and how everybody does something different. And then I think if the artisans we work with, and we're going to probably invite some other creative people we work with around too, to come in and see to see what happens. Like, it's not just, I think that's part of this exchange. It's not just we go there, they teach us how to do a technique and that's it. But we go there, they're going to hear from us, we're going to hear from them, and then something's going to happen. And for all of us to be able to see that, I think it's a great learning experience for everybody. You can see this is this workshop I did in October. It wasn't an embroidery workshop, but it was a weaving workshop where there were people from India and people from this town. And you can see the looks on their faces of what they're discovering after this 3-day workshop that they had with each other, of how much they learned, and that sharing of what you learned at the end is, I think, a super important part of the process. So I'm very excited about that. And then in the style of Oaxaca, you have to have a party, and there has to be food, and you have to have mezcal or some, if you don't drink, there'll be jamaica and other things to drink, and there'll probably be music and maybe some dancing. I don't know, but that's what usually happens. So it's pretty typical here. So we're imagining something like that, and see what happens, and it should all be fun. And so this is kind of our, it's our farewell too, before you guys all head back to where we came from. Okay.
Thanks, Carolyn. Yeah, that's it's like a 10 days in a nutshell.
Yeah.
We can actually, I'm just going to wrap up with just sharing a little bit about the logistics. And then if there's any questions, I'd like to respect everybody's time and keep us to less than an hour. So we'll be actually staying. So what's great actually about our current setup is we'll be staying in a place called Villa Verde, which has actually 6 rooms, multiple bathrooms, a common area, that connects all of those rooms, as well as a private rooftop. The downstairs has a coffee shop as well as a restaurant. And we'll be providing continental breakfast through the kitchen that we have in the mornings. And it's just really an incredible group space for us to spend time in. If we're not at Carolyn's studio, you'll have sort of free reign of the space. And we have a mix of single rooms and double rooms for the trip. So really our participation is based on kind of a mix of what we have available. And so the single occupancy, we have 2 spots left for single occupancy, and that's $2,600. $2,300 for the double, which we have 3 left, and then $1,750 for local without accommodations. I think does this include, did you see the list of this, the next slide, what's included?
Yep.
Okay, great.
There we go.
And I think that's important to say, you know, I've been doing tours here in Oaxaca since 2019, and we always offer sort of an all-inclusive package because I want you to feel cared for and things to be easy while we're here. So the cost includes all of your meals with the exception of a few of the studio days. It includes transportation to the mountains and to all of our daily activities outside of Oaxaca. It includes payments to all of our artisans.
We pay well.
Well, we pay above, yeah, we pay above market, which I think is important. We'll also be providing some materials and also encourage people to bring any materials they want to work with. And then for the first 2, single and double, that includes accommodations. And so, yeah, we have a handful of spots left for folks to come and visit Oaxaca, as well as a few spots for local participants. And we are just so excited. And the way to actually to join the trip is to apply, which I'm going to put into the chat. Well, this is the info page for the trip. And then I had all these things lined up, and then
You want me to pull the website up, or have you guys seen?
you can pull the website up if you like.
Okay.
But really it's I put your name in to hold like a space until we're full when I get an application, which is why I just like to emphasize that. Otherwise, it's not in my system.
I'm trying to pull up the website. I think you've probably seen the website, or you wouldn't have gotten here.
There's a
my
link.
chance.
Yeah, there's a link to the website right there in the chat. And then there's a form on that site as well as right here to apply. And if you join this call late and didn't sign up via an interest form or an email from me, if you can send me your email or fill out this form, we'd really appreciate it. And with that, actually, let's open it up for any questions. Yes, Sarah.
Not having been to Oaxaca before, and I'm sure I can find this on the website, but since you're all here, the transportation piece of like, where do you fly into and then how do you get there?
I'll take you that because I fly from Madison a lot. If you fly from if you fly either American or United, American goes through, you can actually get a flight from Madison to Dallas and Dallas to Oaxaca straight through. That's the best. I've left at 7 in the morning and been here by 1:30 in the afternoon. So, which is really cool. So, and there's also a flight out of Houston that leaves around 5:30 at night that gets in here around 7. Well, it's actually 6:30. We have an hour difference at the moment. We don't do daylight savings time in Mexico anymore. So there's a time difference part of the year. So, but you can go straight from the Houston flight. We'll get you straight into Oaxaca by 7:30 at night. And that works pretty well, or 6:30. And so those, and from the States, if you're anywhere in the Midwest, those are great because it's direct from, it's getting to those towns. For Madison specifically, it's easier to get to Dallas because there's a direct flight to Dallas. Otherwise, Chicago will take you to Houston. So, but there's also, I think LA has some flights directly off. If you're on the West Coast, there's some, the LA directly to Oaxaca. But the Oaxaca airport's small, but it has a handful of international, but sometimes you change in Mexico City, and it's not that bad. It's a lot easier to not if you can, but you can also do that too. Sometimes you can get a lot cheaper flights through there. The airport's small. Once you get in, there's a taxi. We'll send you instructions on how to do it, but you can get a taxi. It's like you can do a collectivo that's like a van, and it drops people off it, and you can do that. I think they're about $15 right now. It might be a little bit less than that. Or you can pay a little bit more and have a private taxi, and it'll take it straight to the hotel. So, but it's relatively easy. Yeah.
So I guess I had a question in terms of kind of who you're targeting to come to this workshop. Are most of these textile artists, or are working in apparel, or just kind of the nature of the other? It sounds like a very collaborative experience that you're going to have with other artisans. So I was just wondering the kind of the makeup of who do you anticipate?
What I'm hoping for is it's a mix. I think what's the most interesting is if there's some, and actually like some people that are in the arts, but not necessarily textiles, is really cool because they bring in a very different perspective than somebody that's been doing textiles their whole life. But maybe there's also someone that's been doing textiles their whole life too. They might do something a little different, when they go off on their own, they might take their drawings or something in a different way. But I think that mix, I have a student from Madison that will be coming along on this too. And I think that's also what's very interesting is if you have people of different ages. There was someone from Bolivia that was interested, and I was really hoping she would be able to make it. I think the money thing is really hard because they just don't, the dollar and the peso of Bolivia, it's harder. But I was trying to figure out how we could get her here, because I think that's when it gets really interesting, is that it's people from different demographics, and you're all going to interpret it differently, and you're all going to pick up on different things, and then what you do with it. And to me, that's the really cool thing, and that's kind of my dream, that's what this
Right.
is.
Well, and just
Yeah,
and just to round that out, in terms of other folks who have signed up to be on this trip, one of the women is an exhibiting artist, an exhibiting artist, and another woman is actually been a long time textile artist and runs her own craft studio out of Santa Cruz, California.
Oh, okay.
So it's already was combined with Carolyn's student, as well as another woman who's
Consuela, she's from Kansas City. I knew her from working at a Latino art center, like from 2001, so a really long time ago. And
I think it's already
and
shaken
so
up a
she's
bit.
involved in the arts and also Latina, and I think having that is going to be really interesting too. So I mean, that was really when we first started talking about that. I think that's really kind of the ideal, is that it's really a lot of people with different backgrounds, but everybody's got something, but it's all different, and I think that's where it gets really cool. So
Yeah, it's been so long since I've done any. I was looking at all those chain stitches and thinking, well, how did I do a chain stitch? I was just kind of looking at how experienced all the artists. Would this be more of an intermediate group that are adding to those intermediate or advanced skills, or is this a beginner?
Don't worry about your skills. It doesn't matter if you are just not an intermediate level or advanced one, or even if you never use a needle and a thread, it could be interesting too. The idea that we have is to share what we already know, even if you don't know anything about the stitches. So as much variation of experience that we have, I think it will be more interesting experience. So everybody's welcome.
Yeah, and there'll be times when Miriam and I, either or both of us, can do some little quick things. There's some stuff just like how you play with your threads. That you put 2 or 3 different threads through the needle, and that's kind of fun. Or couching's kind of fun. And I like things that like cover a lot of space. Miriam does really tiny, small, like, fill in, and I'm like, okay, I need to cover a bunch of this patience. So I think that's what makes it really good, is we both have these really different ways, and we can like talk about all of them, and people can find their own space.
One of the points that we're planning to talk about in conversation is how can emerge through mistakes or errors, and it would be really interesting because it's
Miriam is going to show us a very good example of that. Yeah.
That's a great question. I'll certainly be coming as a beginner and looking forward to learning whatever I can learn. We have a few minutes left. Is it?
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Debbie.
Yeah.
Oh, Sarah.
Yep, sorry. I caught a little bit of this, but I'm not experienced in embroidery. I have, the quilting and the hand stitching and machine sewing and such. I don't have a lot of supplies. Would there be like a kit available for purchase, or could we? I wouldn't. And I also, my other question, like, I'm sure, like, how do you travel with needles and all that stuff? Check a bag?
That's a good question. If you put stuff in your check bag, you can take all kinds of stuff.
Okay, as long as you check a bag. Okay.
But we do
We'll
wanna
have a baseline.
We'll have basics, we'll have some extra scissors and some needles and thread, and we'll have a supply list for you. And then, there'll be some things around here. So if you don't have anything, it's probably all right, except we'll have a list of things we're going to ask you to bring. Like you might want to pick up an embroidery hoop, and we can put on, pictures to say this is a good kind, but we're going to have extras of stuff around too. But we'll give you a full list of things that you need to pick up, and anything weird that you couldn't just pick up pretty easily. We'll have those on hand. There's a really good embroidery place over on Odana Road. I can't remember the name of it. It's by
there's a bunch of places.
Yeah, there's a bunch of Oaxaca. There's one in Madison. She's got great threads. I'll email it to you if you ask. Yeah. Okay. I can't remember the name of it. But if you have, like, some people have things they like to work with too. So like if somebody likes to paint and you like watercolors, like bring them along. You can watercolor on your fabric, and you actually don't even have to work on fabric. You could do the whole thing on paper if you wanted. So a lot of the things I've been doing lately are stitching on paper. And so you can stitch on window screening too. That's really cool. It makes it, it's almost like a big cross stitch. But it has this industrial feel on it, right? Cool, right? And it's structural, so you can shape it and so, material is sort of like, if you have something that you can stick in your bag and you think is interesting and you might be able to poke a needle through it, bring it along. And you can always pop holes with other things, big old needles, ice picks, stuff like that. You can poke holes, so drill holes in it so that you can work in it. So
okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Well, if we don't have any other questions, I just want to say thank you all for joining us this evening. It was really a pleasure to get to share more about our vision for this trip and answer questions. And Carolyn or Miriam, I don't know if you have any parting words, but thank you so much. And we hope to stitch with you in Oaxaca.
Yeah, it'd be really awesome. Yeah, it would be really great. I think it's going to be a very memorable experience. Yeah.
And thank you for sharing this afternoon with us too.
Yeah.
It would be great if you have the chance to be here in June. I love to see you in person.
That'd be great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
And
Have
be
a
sure to
lovely
contact
night.
any of us if you have questions. We're happy to answer any other questions too. So
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. That was awesome.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Okay, so Kim, are you still on? No, it's just us.
Yeah.
So that was good, huh?
It was good.
Yeah. I can't tell if my screen's all a mess or if my glasses are just cloudy. That was good. Oh, and we recorded it. So I'll end the recording and we'll be able to record all this. Okay. I will talk to you later, huh? That was good, wasn't it?
Yes. Have a good night.
Hope they
Love to see
come.
you.
I love Sarah. She would be so great. She's really cool. All right. See you later.
Good night.
Bye.